Let's have a look at a few of the other settings on the builder. As you can see here, the building, we have a building name which is generated automatically. Um, just clear this room and I'll name this Castle 1, for example, and I'll delete the object as well. We can create a game object and assign it to here, but it'll be created by default when we do a build room. I'll just put this back to its 3 and 1, 3 floors and 1 floor each. Go build room again. You see it's actually now created the building parent based upon the castle name. The castle name is quite important when we come to combine meshes and save as prefab. Um, Best to give it a unique name so it doesn't override anything else. Looking at a few other ones, we have wall decorations. We'll look at decorations later on, but at the moment we can switch the wall decorations on or off, choose whether we want to generate wall decorations in corners, and choose whether we want to repeat wall decorations at each floor. So if we set up decorations for on floor 0, they'll be repeated on each floor level. We have a column frequency. At the moment it's set to 1, so that for each tile there'll be 1 column generated. We don't have to have columns, but we can reduce those, or we can remove them completely by choosing 0, so we have no columns, or we can change the frequency on which they appear. Say put it on 2, so the column will appear every 2 tiles, wherever it can. Obviously, if it's an uneven number, it won't be able to appear every 2. There'll be a 1 there. Generally speaking, the default will be 1, so we generate a column for each of those. We can also do this with interior walls and exterior walls, which we'll look at later. The floors as well can have floor decorations, which can turn on or off. We can change the density of decorations, but we'll look at decorations in a separate tutorial later on. Looking at the width scale, at the moment 1 and 1 set to, that'll be exactly what's on the uh, on the on the grid. So depending how many here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever we set on there, 1 to 1 will be what we see. We can increase the width. For example, if we put that to 2 and build, it'll obviously be twice as wide. That's the floor plan, and everything will be adjusted accordingly. And if we increase the length as well by 2, we then pretty much double the size and the width, so we can build any width. That's 1. Also, regarding the height, we can set the build height to be as high as we want. Let's just set that to 20. Leaving the floor frequency at 1, that means that'll create 20 floors each. So we have 20 floors and 20 ceilings moving up. At the moment our stairs hasn't adjusted because we still set it to be 0 to 3. Put that back down to 3. I say the floor frequency, if we had that to 3 and that was 0, basically we're saying that's ground floor only. So if we went to look, that would have it'd be 3 high. In this case, the staircase wouldn't make much sense. And there we'd probably change these settings for the staircase. So we can have it as high as we like. We can set that to 10, make it 10 high, just the ground floor only. Or we could change the floor frequency to say be 2, so that gives us 5 floors, 10 high, 2 tiles each. So we can set the frequency to whatever we want. I'll say the staircases can be adjusted accordingly. In the floor plan editor, if we, let's say if we make that 0, 0 default, you'll then get the staircase going right through to the top. We set the floor frequency back to 1. Then go back to having each floor be 1 tile high. Go back to 3. Here we have a floor gap setting as well. This is actually the space between the floor and the ceiling. So both the floor and the ceiling will be pushed up or down slightly. As if we had 0, they would both clash, and we wouldn't be able to see, for example, we'd see the ceiling there or the floor, because they'd both be occupying the same space. It's best to displace them slightly. In this case, depending on the thickness of your ceilings or walls that you're using, 0.1 is sufficient in this case, just to give some separation. And we might decide that rather than just showing the ceiling on the top, we want a floor at the top, so we can have a floor at the top as well, rather than a ceiling tile, depending on preference. The doors we set in our floor plan editor. At the moment we have, you see our door level, 0 ground level. We can set the doors to be any level. For example, if we wanted to have a dungeon, we could set the door level to be 1, so the first floor, and we can set the ground level to be 1 as well. So in this case, our doors would be a floor higher and our ground, and we'd have 1 floor below, which would be a dungeon level. So we could have 100 floors, and most of those floors can be below ground level if we wanted to. With the and the stairs will obviously go down right to the bottom in the same way. All we're doing really is just shifting the ground and the door level up. I'll just set that back to 0, and the door level back to 0. We also have a door spacing. At the moment we only have 1 door here, so whether it's centered or evenly spaced wouldn't make any difference in this scenario. But if we had more doors, for example, so I go back to select the main wall, select that segment to say make it 3, and generate again. So we have 3 doors. You see now evenly spaced, or space the doors as evenly as you can across the whole segment, or we have it centered. It'll center those as much as it can, depending on the number we have. Obviously, if we have a door for every segment, it's not going to make any difference. And that works on a segment per segment basis. If we wanted to have a door on a certain area, we can say at the moment we only have 4 segments, so our door choice will be spread across the whole segment, but we can subdivide segments, so we can choose to split those into 2 and split those further. Subdivide. So now we've got 2 over here, 1 over there. We could continue splitting those down, obviously a minimum of 1, but if we wanted to say wanted one to have 1 right in the corner here, we could subdivide that, and then we could set now this one here, say that one there, we could set that to be 1, and we could set it to be 0 on the rest. Initially, when you subdivide, it copies the number of doors. You see, when there are doors, the number of doors is greater than 0, it sets it to be green, otherwise it's the default grey. So now we should only see a door here, and it will always be there. You'll see here. And in similar fashion, at the moment we have the windows appearing randomly, and that is because, just look at our castle template. Look, our walls prefab, the castle windows is set 0, 0, so any level, but it's 0 to it's 100 probability, so it's the same probability as a normal wall. If we set this to be 1, for example, and leave it 100, then we would expect every um, section on level 1 to be a window. As you see now, it's 100. Being 100, it means that every section on that level will be a window. We can reduce that down to 50. So that means that every other, or roughly, won't be all of them, but it'll be probability of half. It's random where it we split it, but generally half. You can reduce it by reducing the probability, say down to 20. I would expect to see less windows. So we can use this as one way of creating windows and assign them to different levels. I say if we just set that back to level range 0, 0, they'll then appear on any level. Just have to increase the probability here. 20, let's say 50. And we get a few more appear on any level. Any level that except for the top, because we've set the top to be default to the battlement wall, which doesn't have any, and because that is set to 100, it's overriding all the rest. So we can use the probability to override. It is important in the theme, and we'll talk about this in more depth when we go through creating a theme from scratch, the probabilities. But you should always have one that's 0, 0 and 100 probability, which would be pretty much the default. Let's say our castle wall tops is set to use 2, 2, so it's only on this level here, 0, 1, 2, third level.